afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Keith Silva. The floodwaters from earlier this summer have receded, but Vermonters will be recovering from this disaster for months and perhaps years to come. Standing shoulder to shoulder with these individuals and businesses as they navigate these waters is Vermont's Office of Attorney General. Charity Clark was sworn in as Attorney General of Vermont on January 5th, 2023. She is the first woman elected to the position. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
What role does the Attorney General, the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state, have in flood relief and recovery?
Well, we of course, we're the lawyer to the state. So we have assistant attorneys general placed in various agencies. When it comes to the flood, the Agency of Transportation is an agency that obviously was impacted, and we're supporting that agency with our lawyers, in addition to the Agency of Natural Resources. And in addition to those lawyers, we actually also have the Consumer Assistance Program, which probably many of your viewers are familiar with. That's the most common way that Vermonters interface with the Attorney General's office. And the Consumer Assistance Program are experts when it comes to all consumer issues. Now that includes scams, price gouging, something we see after a natural disaster, home improvement complaints. We have received many of those over the years when it comes to home improvement contractors, and all sorts of other consumer issues that we might see in the aftermath of a scam, of a flood.
Of a disaster, yeah. You visited some of the flood affected areas. What were your impressions?
Well, I was fortunate to live in a town where there wasn't a lot of damage done, but of course I have worked in Montpelier for most of my adult life, and I went there the weekend after the flood, and it was absolutely devastating. I saw the videos and the pictures, and until I saw it in person, it really wasn't so visceral, and it was overwhelming, and it was really heart-wrenching to see, especially the small businesses and the impact on the downtown area. It was also overwhelming to see all of the volunteers who came, out from not just Montpelier, but all over Vermont to go to Montpelier and help muck out basements and just offer support to the small businesses. So I also, in addition to Montpelier, I visited Richmond right after the flood, and I went to Ludlow a couple of weeks ago, where I brought my small business advocate from the Consumer Assistance Program. We met with the Rotary down there and various small businesses. One thing I noticed when I was down there is there's a lot of damage kind of widespread and everywhere to the roads. So you're driving along, there's a cone, there's obviously been trouble with a bank or a bridge, and whereas in Montpelier it was really, really focused on the downtown area. I'm sure there's lots of pockets that are still in recovery, and when you go there, you can tell that something really devastating happened to this community.
When you were in Ludlow meeting with those folks, what were their concerns? What were the average citizens' concerns? Was it roads? Was it help with government agencies? What was it?
Well, we brought our small business advocate with us, and there was also someone from the Small Business Administration there, which isn't in our office as a federal agency, but. So really the focus seemed to be on small businesses, and people were wondering how to get resources and filling out paperwork. There's a lot of programs available, thankfully, for not just small businesses but individuals, but sometimes it can be confusing to navigate the application process or even insurance, things like that. So we're trying to coordinate on an agency level where we can help folks get connected to the specific application or agency that they need for whatever their issue is.
Yeah, dealing with all that paperwork, especially at an emotional time, can't be easy. As the rebuilding and recovery effort is ongoing, and as we've said, will continue for some time, what do you want Vermonters to know as they continue to work through this process?
Well, for starters, our office is there to support them and make sure that they're getting whatever resources we can either provide them with or direct them to. Right. We at the Consumer Assistance Program consider ourselves to be experts in state government, municipal government, federal government, and we can always make that referral, and we kind of pride ourselves on that. If we don't know the answer, we're going to find out the answer and get you there. We also have resources, with consumer issues specifically, but also for small businesses because of our small business advocate, who again can help you navigate state government or municipal government, whatever you need. And we also have a home improvement contractor specialist who can help not just the consumer looking to hire a home improvement contractor to help rebuild whatever was damaged in the flood, but also that home improvement contractor themselves. That's a small business owner. And we want to be supportive of that person, helping them to, find their way to best practices, maybe get a sample contract if they need it. We're trying to support all of that. I referenced this before, but complaints about home improvement contractors, I think it's like our number 3rd most common complaint our office sees. Some years it's the most common complaint. So it's a very unfortunately common experience for either the contractor or the consumer, the homeowner, to have a disagreement about that. And so we want to support the process, make sure everyone's using best practices and has a good experience.
And your office recently hired someone who specializes in home improvement issues like you're talking about. So obviously it's a concern.
That's right. It absolutely is. We advocated for that in the legislature a couple years ago, and I, was grateful. Maybe that was last year, but so much has happened to me since then. It seems like a lot longer.
I think we said at the top of the program you were elected in 2023. We're still in this year, so.
Yeah, exactly. We advocated for that position, and I was really grateful the legislature funded it. So we have someone who has been, trained, and they're an expert in this and can be helpful to Vermonters, which is great.
And I guess one thing that we should say, Attorney General Clark, is we're not trying to scare anyone or try to make people think that, the contractors they're hiring to do whatever are trying to scam them. This is something, forewarned is forearmed, and this is a service, your tax dollars at work. You should call and check these people out. The only person you're doing a disservice to is yourself, right?
Yes, right. I mean, we're available for Vermonters for whatever they need. And they should absolutely, pick up the phone and call. And I also just want to acknowledge, with home improvement contractors, they might be they're really a sole proprietor, and they might be great at, building your deck or repairing your bathroom, but they didn't necessarily have, a primer course in how to run a small business. Well, that's why we're here, to sort of help you put in place, give you the best practices so that you can follow those. So we're there to support both of the consumer and the contractor.
I suspect, before the last drop of rain had fallen, the scammers and bad actors already start to sort of move in. What sort of scams or frauds should people be aware of in the aftermath of a disaster like this?
Well, I'll just first tell you my formula for a red flag. This might be a scam,
right.
And it begins with heightened emotional response. So scammers are just looking for a way to steal your money, and if you are in a heightened emotional state, that's a great fertile ground to trick you because you're not thinking, you're feeling.
Right.
And of course, if you have lost something in the flood, if your home has been damaged, or if you're just distraught because your community has been damaged, even if you personally weren't affected in your home, that's just a perfect place for a scammer to take advantage of the moment. What we saw, literally, I think 2 days after the flood, we issued a scam alert because we saw an uptick in alerts to our office of a particular scam, the utility disconnection scam. So think about it. Scammers are thinking, all right, how can we make money off of this? Well, people are going to need fans, they're going to need dehumidifiers, they're going to need their electricity. Why don't we call people and tell them that their electric bill is overdue and we're going to disconnect their electricity unless they give us, $300 over the phone right then. And that's what people were doing. And so the scammers were out. We issued a scam alert. Another one is charity scams. People are always looking to do good after a natural disaster. It's something that we kind of pride ourselves here in Vermont is taking care of each other, taking care of our neighbors. But before people donate to a charity, they need to make sure it's legitimate. Before they donate to any, GoFundMe, same, make sure this is legitimate and not a scammer. Another common one is the FEMA scam, where people are trying to help you fill out a form to get disaster relief aid, like through FEMA, but actually they're just collecting your information so that they can steal your identity or fill out a form themselves using that information and get the money for themselves. They're very tricky and clever. Those are the big scams that came to mind, and of course, it was disheartening but not surprising to see that immediately after the flood we really had to issue a scam alert because one of those scams, there was an uptick in one of those scams.
And I guess, one of the things I think anyone thinks of, it's not going to happen to me. I'm smarter than this. The scammers aren't going to get me, but we wouldn't have a consumer assistance office or an attorney general for that matter if, people weren't getting scammed. And I guess that's the other part to sort of point out is it's not a call on your character if someone calls you and tries to scam you, or if in that heightened emotional state you spoke of, you're like, oh yes, I want to donate to the, benevolent order of flood, survivors or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's okay. These things happen, but there's someone there to help.
Exactly. No one should be embarrassed, one, to get a scam call or text or email. We all have those. But also, if you fell for a scam, get help immediately. Be gentle with yourself. I always, when I talk about scams, which is often, that's how we educate, right?
Right.
I always say, this is one that I feel like I'm vulnerable to receiving. Someone texts me, email, I think I'm savvy enough. I'm probably of a
Sure.
generation where I'm naturally suspicious of emails. And
Right.
calls, I never even pick up my phone, but texts, I always think like I would click on the link. I have to myself, even though I give this speech all the time, be careful. So folks should absolutely reach out to the Consumer Assistance Program for help. That's why they're there, is to
Right.
provide support and help. And it's really important they do so right away. So don't hesitate, because although it's unlikely that we would be able to get money back, we have been successful at getting money back if someone calls immediately. Within 24 hours, it's a lost cause. And also, depending on the means of transferring the money, if I could just take a minute and kind of highlight, think about it. Scammers don't want you to be able to do a cancellation of the order, right? They want your money, and they want it basically in cash. So they're going to use things like Venmo or gift cards. We always say gift cards are for gifts. So if someone says, go to the pharmacy and get a MasterCard gift card,
Mm-hmm.
that's a scam. Gift cards are for gifts. That's not to pay people money. Credit cards have built-in consumer protection. So credit cards are a great way to buy things because they have built-in consumer protections. Well, of course, scammers know that, so they're not going to ask for a credit card.
Right.
And wiring money is another thing that scammers will use to try to get you to give the money that you can't get back. So be aware of how you're paying for things.
Well, we want people to call you, so how can folks get in touch with you?
Well, 1-800-649-2424 is our phone number. You can also email us at info@ago.vermont.gov, or you can find the Consumer Assistance Program webpage on our website, ago.vermont.gov.
And all of those places are places to go to report these scams. One thing that I learned the other day in working on this program was that you may be the lawyer for the state, as you said earlier, but these are not the enforcement people. When you're calling the Consumer Assistance Office, that's not the law, that's not the cops or whatever. They are just compiling this information, and they're going to get that to who it needs to go to.
That's right. They'll make referrals to attorneys in our office if there's a complaint that a lot of people have complained about and we need to look into it. But most of what they're doing is trying to support the consumer and getting the result that they need, or if they feel their identity has been stolen or whatever, they're just there to support the consumer. And the important thing is, if people are making scam reports to our office, well, then we know what's going on.
Right.
We know how to educate the public, or we might even put out a scam alert, as we did in the aftermath of the flood with the utility scam.
Right. They don't send out scam alerts because Charity Clark got some weird text.
Right. That's right. That's exactly it.
Well, Attorney General Clark, I want to thank you very much for speaking with us, and kudos to everyone here at WCAX who made this program possible. And as always, thank you for stopping by Across the Fence.